Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Walker, the Manager of Athlete Development here at USA Volleyball. And today I'm privileged to be joined by Larry Rather. And Larry, if you're not familiar with him, is the head coach at Fort Valley State University in Georgia and has had great success as head coach there and led the team to their first HBCU appearance in the NCAA tournament this past year. So Larry's joining us today to talk a little bit about growing the men's game, a little bit about what that looks like in the collegiate space and the current climate that we're in, and looking forward to his perspective. Thanks for joining us, Larry.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. It's an
Yeah.
honor as well.
All right. So why don't we start out with a little bit of your coaching journey and how you ended up at Fort Valley?
Yeah, so my coaching journey started honestly while I was at Ball State. While I was playing, I was coaching high school and club. So for my junior or my sophomore year of college until I graduated out, I was coaching high school and club. Graduated, went back home. My dad owned a volleyball club back home in Chicago, Vortex Volleyball Club. And I became a director with them and started coaching. And then while I was there, a good friend of mine, Mikey Andolo, reached out. He reached out years before to see if I would come be a GA for him while he was at Grand Canyon, and I turned it down because I was staying with my dad and kind of helping there. And then he reached out again when he was a head coach at the University of Charleston. And in my mind, I was like, people don't ask twice, right? Like, you kind of want to get on this. Like, these opportunities don't always come around, and he's coming to you again for a reason. And so I packed up my life, moved to Charleston, West Virginia, lived in a dorm for 2 years, and then COVID hit, right? So that kind of started in that journey of the college rounds. In my second years, when First Point Volleyball Foundation announced they were giving money to the SIAC. And so I started looking into that as being one of their coaches and trying to push that narrative. Had been a man of color in this sport, you kind of know what it's like to be the one of few, right? And to be able to branch out into this community was kind of cool. And so I went through that whole process. And during COVID, I got the job, started in July of 2020. Now I'm going on my 5th year there.
Yeah. So what was key for you as you went in and built this program?
Grassroots. That was the biggest thing for me, is growing it locally, stateside, not trying to go heavy international as we built this, because I wanted representation to matter. Seeing someone like me doing it, seeing someone like the next generation doing it. So really necessarily having someone who is international, yeah, they could be a good player and we could be successful in that aspect, but I was okay with sacrificing the success early in our season, in our years, because we knew year 1 and year 2 were kind of a trial year, right? We didn't get our AQ until year 3. So I knew we had some time to develop our guys. I knew I just needed to find some guys who were stubborn enough like me to come in and go ahead and just grind it out and fight every single day and take a lot of lumps on the chin and learn from those mistakes as we went on.
Yeah, I love that. So take me through a little bit more of that recruiting process. You said you wanted to keep it kind of local, grassroots. So what did that actually look like for you?
So, I mean, as you can imagine, right, there's not many men of color that play. So you're not really going to be able to, especially in the Southeast, right? There's really not a ton of volleyball in the Southeast. I mean, even in the state of Georgia, the sport isn't sanctioned in the high school level, which is sad because you have 7 collegiate sports from NAIA to D2, and it's not a state sport, right? So kids are missing out on opportunities. North Carolina just started up. South Carolina just started up. Florida's kind of been the real big one that's been going for a while. So I knew Florida kids would be a good pool to bring into us, but really it was kind of just finding the kids that fit what we were trying to do. And I'm not a guy who hides from the truth. Like, I'm very blunt and honest with guys when I talk to them and I recruit them, and I'm letting them know it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot of failing, a lot of work. And they had to be guys who understood that. Like, we're not guys in our gym where we care about the glitz and the glamour. It's a lot more about grinding in the dark. So when it's time to shine in the light, I shine bright. Right. So just finding those guys who fit that model is important for us as we started during that COVID time, which is hard because it was COVID.
Yeah.
right? And you're not really in the gym recruiting these kids. You're in a screen watching these kids, judging them off their talent, and then you're trying to make phone calls and see if that fits into what you're doing. And I would say this year we're graduating our first class, right? My class from the COVID time, and we've only lost 3 guys from that group.
That's
Right? We brought in 12 guys in that class, and we're graduating 10 with 2 new guys that came in, but we only lost 3 guys throughout the whole thing, which is pretty awesome. Like it's rare to have that kind of retention in a class and have that kind of uh, buy-in from a group when the first 2 years were very rough,
yeah.
right? So yeah, I think it was just kind of finding guys who fit that motto and fit my personality and my mindset. A lot of people say a team's culture is of what their coach is, and I think our team definitely is starting to model after who I am as a person and how I see the game and things like that.
Yeah, as you moved into that position and you knew, all right, team culture, this program is going to be about what I said it. What were some of the values that you embraced?
Well, so we used WILDCATS as an acronym. And so it was wisdom, intensity, leadership, determination, courage, aggressiveness, trust, and sacrifice. Those were our main ones as we went through. And there were like 2 that changed from year 1 to year 2. But that's kind of where we started with it. And that was the mindset of what we wanted. We wanted to be able to use our wisdom to learn off of our failures, right? Intensity is obviously the tempo at which you move. We didn't want to be slow and lethargic. We wanted to be quick, fast, do what we need to do. And as we just continued throughout it, our guys started to exemplify what those core values were. To the impact now that our guys are involved in so much on campus. Like everybody wants them involved in their club or their organization because men's volleyball is, the way we like to put it, the whole vibe. Men's volleyball is the vibe on campus. They set the standard and they set kind of the tone of what it means. And our guys are just authentic to themselves and they're very selfless in a way.
I love that piece of being authentic to yourself, especially when we're talking about ex- expanding the inclusivity in the sport, expanding the representation in the sport. So can you speak a little bit more to how you encourage these guys when they're young and they come in to really be authentic to themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, right? Of being the one of few of a man of color playing in this sport that's Caucasian dominated. You kind of have to wear a mask majority of the time when you're playing this sport because you really can't be 100% you, because you start to get hit with these stereotypes or these stigmas or whatever have you, that really isn't you. And so for me, when I'm recruiting our guys, it's a lot of them knowing that they can come to our university and be authentic to themselves, right? Because I want them to be able to grow. And you can't grow unless you're vulnerable, right? If I can't be vulnerable, then I'm always up with a guard and I can't necessarily get my full money's worth of what I'm getting into. So, really making sure it's an environment where they can be vulnerable, where they can trust in one another and trust in us as coaches to have their back no matter what, and not really shushing them down or telling them, hey, that's not how we do things. Like, yeah, there are times we'll say, hey, tighten up, right? Like, we're in public. This isn't the time to be that. But like when we're just in our tribe and we're just in our group, like, be you. If you want to do certain things and our group doesn't really affect us a ton, like, be you. When we get outside of our group and we start going out into public and do different things, okay, we tighten up, we show our professional side, we show our kind side, our humanitarian side as we get out there.
No, I love that. I love that piece of just really encouraging the guys and to be vulnerable is what you need to grow. That's such a key piece of wisdom I think that anyone could really incorporate. But seems so key when you're working with various demographics, when you're thinking about inclusivity in the sport, when you're thinking about that representation, and can you be safe to grow in that space? So one of the things you said earlier is that in the state of Georgia, boys volleyball isn't sanctioned at the high school level. So we're really, when we think about how are we growing the men's game, that is a big obstacle when we look at that. So what do you think is kind of your responsibility, or what do you hope to impact in your role at Fort Valley, and when it comes to maybe impacting the lower levels of sport?
Yeah, so I think doing as much as we can to apply pressure. I think pressure is a beautiful thing, and pressure also exposes a lot of things. So us being able to bring a lot of attention to the state of Georgia, add some pressure to the Georgia high school system. We even in the fall we used to run what we call the Georgia Cup. So the 7 universities that have men's volleyball would all meet up for a fall ball tournament, and we would all play so we can get exposure to the kids in our area, right? Like we would have it at each other's university. So like if kids came, like we use it as a recruiting tool too. Like the first year was at Fort Valley, so kids got to come if they came to watch the Georgia Cup. They got to be able to see what Fort Valley looked like. And the next year we went to Life University, and if kids came, they got to see what Life University looked like. But you're also seeing all the different schools in the state of Georgia that have men's volleyball, where you have Emmanuel, who's a D2 school, Morehouse is a D2 school, we're a D2 university, Life, Reinhardt, Truett, McConnell, Bruton Parker are all NAI, but still those are opportunities for kids in the state to taste state, right? And to call a spade, states want to keep state money state, right? So how are you negating these opportunities for these kids to keep money in state, right? And give them the opportunity to try something without having to lash out 5 to 6 grand to play club.
Yeah.
Right. High school is usually the opportunity where kids find out if I want to be serious about this.
Right.
In the sport of volleyball, you have to lash out the money and say, I am serious about this from the get go before even knowing what it's like.
Yeah, I think that's such a key piece is we need to expand the exposure to the sport as we think about that and make that accessible before you kind of move to that next level or consider what that next level of commitment actually looks like.
Yeah. I think that's definitely the first part of it. Because when you add in kids being able to try something out for free, again, we get back to the vulnerability, right? Because I'm not lashing so much money into it that it becomes an investment that I have to really be fully dialed in 24/7. Because sometimes that could be a parent's rent, that could be the decision of food on the table or not, that could be the car payment or not, that could be the car insurance. We just got in a big wreck. Do I get a new car? What happens? Like if you have it in high school, it allows these kids to go in vulnerable and try this sport and learn and really see if I can fall in love with it.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's the biggest thing is falling in love. And once you fall in love, then you can absolutely dive head first into whatever else may come from there.
Yeah. So, how is what you've experienced in Georgia in that climate different than what you experienced in Chicago area when you were growing up?
Oof, it's drastic. I mean, for me growing up in Chicago, there was volleyball everywhere, right? Between just the Midwest of St. Louis, Wisconsin, Chicago, um, you were getting some really good volleyball going on no matter where you went. For us down in the Southeast, I think it's starting to pick up for sure. I think the Carolinas are really starting to figure some things out. I think Florida has been doing it and they're just getting better at it even more. And I think Georgia is trying to play catch up. And they have really good athletes. That's the crazy part is there are really good athletes in the state of Georgia. It's just the exposure of being involved in it, right? And like for me, I grew up in the sport. My dad played in the Army, so I've always been around it. I was one of few, like I'm the 1% of a man of color who's been in this game.
Okay.
Like I grew up, this was like basketball for me,
Yeah.
right? Compared to someone else who would be like me. So this is something that if we can get them caught on it sooner and earlier, right? Now you start to get the IQ of the game a lot more, which gets you caught up to what's going on in the Midwest and just the style of play of even the West Coast, right? Those kids are born with balls in their hands for the most part, are exposed to it at an early enough age that they don't deem it into a stereotype or it's a girl sport, right? Or whatever other stigma it might be. You don't have that because it's prevalent. It's out there. There are boys playing.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you've transitioned from player into coach, assistant coach, and head coach, and you think about the trajectory of the sport, how are you envisioning maybe your mentorship and your role in mentorship to bring more men of color into the sport or to bring them more of them into coaching? What does that kind of mentorship from you look like?
It's the same way as our coach. Being open, being honest, because we have guys who do want to coach. And it's just me putting them in front of the right people, but letting them know, hey, I'm not putting my name on this if you're going to half-ass it, right? Like get involved in it and really do it. Um, but they're going to ask those questions. They're going to come in with the same mindset because they have something as a stable starting base, right? Being in our program and being around. But I think for me, it's just being the voice, being the guy in the room who's always going to speak up. I've never been a guy who's going to be quiet. I've always been someone who's almost too overbearing sometimes, right? But I'm always going to speak up, especially when it comes to the aspect of adding more diversity in the sport and trying to grow it in that aspect and not just grow it in the communities it's already been growing in, right? Reaching out into different ethnicities and cultures and allowing that to kind of blossom on its own. So just being in the rooms that I can be in and advocate as much as I can. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll admit that whenever that is, but I'm always going to fight no matter what it is to figure out, okay, you don't think this is right. Why? Tell me why so I can figure out how to make it work otherwise, right? If you can't tell me why it doesn't work, then there's no reason it shouldn't work. If you can tell me why it doesn't work or a small thing that doesn't work, okay, that gives me something now to go kind of figure out what I need to change to make that a true possibility of it being a reality versus just being an imagination.
Yeah, I really love what you just captured right there, because I think a lot of times when we think about expanding diversity in the sport, excuse me, expanding diversity in the sport, we really end up seeing more obstacles and barriers than we do, to your point, saying, hey, tell me why this can't work. Like, and if it can't work, then let me figure out the way around it. It's such a hopeful and optimistic view of saying, hey, we really can add more diversity into the sport. We can add more diversity into the men's game. And we can keep growing this men's game.
Absolutely. I think me as a player, I was an undersized outside that made people know who I was. I was the guy, if you told me you couldn't do something, I was going to prove you wrong. And so a lot of people don't think this can happen. And again, I'm going to prove them wrong because I think this is, again, and it's not just for men of color, like it's all ethnicities, right? Like we're only tapping into 1/8 of what our athletes are, right? There are a lot of different athletes out there that just aren't exposed. And once they are, we are getting now the full US involved in creating the pipeline and doing what we want to do versus this one little pocket of the US being and representing the US in this sport.
Right. Absolutely. So, what did it mean kind of for you? Did you feel any additional pressure being the first HBCU to show up in the NCAA tournament, or did you view that as like, hey, great, this is our opportunity to showcase what this is?
Oh, that was the mission all along. As I recruited, as I recruited our first class, our seniors, I told them as I recruited them by year 3, we're going to the NCAA tournament. It wasn't a question. It was we're going to be there and we're going to represent. And we talk about it's not necessarily about us. It's not about me as the head coach. It's not about them as the individuals. It's about the next generational spark, what we're trying to do, right? The representation I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Because if I don't see someone like me doing it, I don't believe I can do it, right? And for a young kid to see someone who's closer in their age and the college guys, that makes them receptive. But then they see the head coach who looks like them as well. Now they're vulnerable, like, oh, now I'm really receptive to what's going on. So we knew from the jump, like that was our mission. We were fighting by year 3. Our goal was to put in the work. So when year 3 came, we were ready to take off and run with it. And our guys did that. And we had a quote our guys brought in to practice because in our seasons in the first 2 years, we would start practice with a quote. And then by year 2, we would start a week with a quote. And the guys would have to remember it throughout practice. So they're mindful of what's going on. But it was always centered around one of our core values to give our mindset of what we should be focusing on. And one of our guys brought in a story about Chinese bamboo. Chinese bamboo starts in this little seed, and when you plant it, you fertilize it, you water it, you can do all that for a year. Nothing will happen. You come into year 2, you do the same thing. You fertilize it, you water it, you give it all the attention it needs, still nothing happens. You go into year 3, hopeful, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, like, it's going to work this year. This has got to be the year. Go through the same process. Nothing happens. Now you're getting frustrated. Now you're starting to question yourself and doubt what's going on. And then you get into year 4 and you're like, man, I hope this is finally it, right? No, it's not. You still go into year 4, fertilizing, watering, giving it all the attention it needs, and you still get nothing. But when you hit year 5 of watering that bamboo seed, year 5, in 5 weeks, it grows 90 feet, right? And what's happening in those first 4 years, 5 years, is the bamboo's roots are growing to sustain the massive growth it's about to have of 90 feet. And our guys brought that quote, and I actually brought this quote up at our ring ceremony just during homecoming 2 weeks ago. They really bought into that because we did a lot of work with no vision of this is actually going to happen, right? It's literally just blind faith of we're going to continue coming in, putting in the work, enjoying the process, failing in the process, and figuring out how we can learn and where we can get better. And when we came to the summer, guys went off and got better on their own and came back. And so I don't think it was ever truly pressure. I think it was kind of a reality that, like, oh, dang, like, coach is a fortune teller for one, but two, like, we're actually here. Like, we made what we said we were going to do. And now it's just like continuing it, right? Because that first year of us being there starts the representation, right? You have these young guys who are watching the NCAA tournament. They're like, wow, that's a whole team of Black guys. Like, what? And the coach and the assistant coach, and they like dive into it, and you're like, man, that's awesome. And then we have 2 Hispanic guys on our team. One's Venezuelan and one's Mexican. This year we brought in our first Caucasian guy, which he's a pioneer of his own, right? He's this tip of a spear of his, to where he's opening the gates for other guys to be able to come in and be receptive. And he's even now growing as a person because he's getting to see a different perspective of life, right? And that's what's important as a coach for me, is providing these guys something bigger than just the sport, because the sport at the end of the day ends. So what can we do to provide them the most value in life that carries on into the sport, using the sport as a vehicle?
Yeah. You really are laying the groundwork for sustainability in this program. And I think that's a really strong testament to the culture that you're building with these guys. One of the pieces with that I would be curious is when the guys do have those moments where they're doubting, right? You don't see the bamboo shooting up just yet. How do you get them through those moments?
Each other. It has to be each other. We talk about it all the time. It's not about us as individuals. It's about the greater picture and the bigger picture and the broad picture. And some of it's a lot of just blind faith and trust. But it's rare that all of them are in that doubt mode, right? So you have a brother next to you who's like, hey, we're good, man. Like, let's just keep going. It's just about 1 foot forward, right? And sometimes, so people say an inch forward, I go even smaller. I'm like, hey, a centimeter. Just move a centimeter. As long as you're moving in a forward direction. And sometimes you may take a backward step. It's okay, right? You have to live in thirds, right? And that's the third of, you're going to have great days, you're going to have good days, and you're going to have bad days. It's how you use them, which makes you better, right? If I'm having a bad day, okay, cool. How can I get something out of this day? I'm having a good day, cool. How can I be cleaner in my good day? I'm having a great day, cool. Let me be dominant, not just great. And it's keeping that mindset with them. And it's a daily conversation that we talk of holding them accountable, holding each other accountable. I mean, heck, while I'm out here, they're back home with not a coach right now. And so my captains have been running practices, and I reached out to them yesterday for their first practice when I left. And I was like, hey, how was it? They're like, oh, it was pretty good. We just had to run a little bit. I was like, huh? Ran. Okay, cool. Why do we run? Well, just like little things. Like we weren't shagging or guys not giving the effort, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, message liked. I don't need to say anything else, right? Because that's a part of our standard. That's a part of our culture of, we shag balls. We're not going to be lazy. Oh. You're going to go get the ball and put the ball in the cart. We're going to give effort 24/7. If you don't give effort, I'm a big fan of, you either give me the sweat equity or I'm going to take my sweat equity. Yeah. One of the two. You can give it freely or it can be taken. Yeah. Your choice, whichever way you want to go. And so like that's just a part of our culture now. And our guys are really starting to buy into it, and you can see it starting to cement. And I think for me as a coach, that was kind of like my first like, it's there.
Yeah.
Because I'm worried that we're about to graduate a large class and like, is our culture really where I think it is? Is it going to sustain? Um, but I think it will, just because of the work that's put in and the mindset at which our guys are in. So I think when they get in those times where it's just like, this is a tough day, it's how can I better this day? Anytime. Like, how can I make a bad day good? Right? It doesn't have to be great, it doesn't be perfect. What can I do to make one part of this day good? What can I do to make one part of this game better? And that's all it is. Controlling the controllables.
Yeah. I love that. So as we wrap up kind of this conversation, what are your hopes for, or what would you maybe challenge our coaches across the US to think about when it comes to growing the game, when it comes to increasing our diversity and accessibility of the sport?
Ooh, that's a tough one because there's a lot of things I
Yeah.
could go into. Um, I think the easiest way to put it is, if we're thinking of diversity, we can't go fishing in the same pond expecting to get new fish,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, I can't go to the same term as I've been going to expecting to find more diversity when there hasn't been diversity there. I have
Yeah.
to find another way to find that. I have to actually seek it. I have to do the work, right? Because it's not easily found. It's not readily available. Like, you have to find it. So doing the work in that aspect for sure. Um, and being patient, because it's going to take time, like anything, when it comes to trying to go against the grain, right? Like everyone, like we talk about with the kids here, right? Like everyone is always going to go towards the path of least resistance. I do not. I have no problem going against the grain and figuring out what it needs to be done to get there. And I think fishing in different ponds, but also being patient and being open minded to different things and different aspects, and putting yourself in the shoes of what that person would be in, right? And not necessarily walk around in those shoes, but at least have a lens
Hmm.
to see what it's like. I don't need to walk in your shoes to have an idea like I understand and be accepting in that aspect, right? So I think that would be the main things of it. And I mean, feel free to reach out to me. Like I will gladly have these conversations all over the place with people about diversity and growing this game and doing things we can. And, I'm trying to work with the conferences in Division 1, 2 men's volleyball to try to put something together with the HBCUs, whether it's during Black History Month or Martin Luther King weekend, um, to where they all go to a HBCU, right? You might have one Big West, one EIVA, one MEVA, and then one SIAC school at a SIAC school, right? Because you do that while their students are on campus. Now you're bringing attention to their program. Now you're bringing something that normally wouldn't be there, right? So doing those kind of things. I mean, yeah, you can always have the HBCUs come to your school, but that doesn't hit the same.
Hmm.
I think it does a good job of maybe getting some visibility, absolutely, on a national scale of television. But I think if we're talking grassroots wise, like, get out to those schools, be there, go to a high school or elementary school in the area, right, with your name and their name tied together, running a clinic to get kids involved, right? Like, you can do little grassroots things like that that make it bigger than the sport. Because at the end of the day, wins and losses are always going to be there, but how you affect someone personally carries on for a lifetime and generations, right? Because the one impact I made on this one kid may now affect how he goes about his life, that then affects the next kid under him, right? That's how you live as an immortal, is what you instill and leave on everyone else.
Yeah, I love it. So, Larry, you have also served in the capacity of coach for our national team development program. As you see guys come into these training series, maybe for the first time or the first time with this new age group, if they've leveled up an age group, what are some recommendations you have for them to make it through the intensity of a training series?
Um, I think, have been in their shoes back when I was a player, back in the HP days before the NTDP came around. Looking back on it now, I think a big part of it is journaling. Like at the end of your day, journal things out. I wish I would have done that as a player when I was involved in this, is journaling things out. Like, what did I do well? What did I fail at? Right. Because failing's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, right? You should always fail forward in a way. Um, what's something that I found intriguing? What's something I learned? And just take a journal every single day. By the time you're done with it, if you want to really do at the end of each session, do at the end of each session, but like just have a broad stroke of what it looked like for you. So when you leave here, you're not leaving and you're like, we kind of talked about this, but I really don't remember. Like you can take yourself back in time at that point and remember the exact moment of it. Because when we keep things in our minds, if it was a bad thing, right, and it's in my mind, it's only going to bounce more and more and more and get louder and louder and louder, which makes you think like I suck, which isn't true. But once I write things out and I put it down on paper, I can revisit it, but I also get it out of here to take some of that anxiety away, right? A lot of it is anxiety and wondering about the future, or wondering about how did I do? How do they think I was? This, that, and the other. Like, you can control what you can control at the end of the day. And writing that journal out allows you to kind of dump it and forget it and leave it alone for a little bit and move on to the next day, or move on to whatever that next thing is. I think that's very important kind of for the new guys for sure. Because you get overstimulated fast, right? You're competing more than you normally would have in a club in a club stance. You're now a big fish from your small pond in a pond with a bunch of big fish, right? So the competition level is a lot higher. So there's a lot of different factors that are playing in and playing on you that you're like, I don't know, like there's so much hitting you. Loud noises, the different uh altitude is hitting you, right? Like there's different things, and just being able to take that small thing of what you can control is very important. I think for guys who moved up in a rank, is like, for coaches in the US system, I'm gonna go off how I would see it, is if you're a returner, I want to see you take the guy who's new and help him, right? Don't be the cocky guy, like, oh, I've been here, I know what's going on and all that. Like, be the guy who's like, yeah, I'm the seasoned vet. Hey, this is how we do things. Come with me, I'll show you how to do it. Right? Like taking the leadership role, right? Because we need more leaders in the world than we do anything else. And you have to build that. And you can't do that coming in here and expecting everything is granted to you, because nothing is granted. Nothing is promised in this world except an opportunity. Right? Um, so as like returners, bringing in a new guy, because you learn as you help instruct others, you start to remember it more yourself, right? And then at the same time, because I did this when I was coaching in college, like my kids would come watch our matches, and I knew for sure I could not do what I just been getting on them all week about, right? Like I can't not get my platform out around this ball and push it in, because as soon as I don't, hey coach, I was at the game. You remember that ball you didn't get around, right? Yeah. You remember telling me to do it all the time, right? So like it holds you to a certain accountability, because now you're holding them accountable to do that, and you're vocalizing it, which when we vocalize things, the same as writing it down, it sticks more into our mind of what's going on. And then it just shows into the coaches, like, this kid is a leader. He's about more than himself, right? And sometimes you may not be a starter on the team, but because you do something like that, that makes me want you in my program. That makes me want you on my team, right? Because you are a selfless thing. And we talk about our culture cues, and that's a big thing in the culture cue.
Yeah. I really love that you not only encourage that reflectivity, but you frame for the athletes that the reflectivity also helps you with anxiety management, because it is a lot of stimulation. It has a lot of demand on the body in a short period of time. Are there any other suggestions you give athletes specifically to help them regulate that anxiety?
Take a deep breath, take it step by step. Like, again, this is speaking now versus me then, right? Like, now you're older, you're more mature, you see things how you wish you would have done it. Taking it little by little, like enjoying the moments, living in the present, right? Like, a lot of anxiety comes because we live too much in the past, we live too much in the future, right? We're not in the present moment, we're not grounded. So being grounded in what's going on around us, and not trying to think, oh, well, tomorrow we're going to do this, I'm going to be so much better, or man, I sucked yesterday, I couldn't do this or this. Like, live in what today is. Like, you today is not you then, and you have no idea who you're going to be tomorrow. So like, just stay grounded in what's happening right now. And that'll honestly help with a lot of the anxiety and things that come from coming to these kind of events, right? Because it is overwhelming. It is a lot going on. And you got to look at it as I'm here to learn at the end of the day. Like if I make the team, awesome. If not, did I get better? Did I learn something? Did I have a takeaway from this? Am I going to challenge myself to now, this is my new standard and be there? But at the end of the day, it's about being vulnerable, taking it day by day, and just being receptive to whatever it is. Like you fail, you fail. Like, cool, learn from it. Don't harp on it, right? And it's something we talk about in our gym at my university is use your past as a library, not a movie theater. Right. A lot of us like to use our past as movie theaters, and we like to sit down and get a nice big bowl of popcorn and relive whatever that thing was, whether it was trauma of negative or it was this beautiful play that I made. And we just want to live and bask in it when that's not what it should be. Our past should be a library. I should go in, seek the knowledge I need, read through it and refine what I need to take from it, put the book away and leave. It's not meant to be in forever. And if you live into it forever, that's where your anxiety and everything else comes in.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing the wisdom. Appreciate it, Coach.
Absolutely.